I want to take this time to humbly greet you all in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, this blessed Sabbath evening. As you would undoubtedly be aware that from Sunday, we actually commenced with our senior youth leadership seminars, where we looked at contextualizing some of the competencies that should be expected from senior youth leaders that are dealing with young people. And of course, today being Friday evening is the Sabbath, is the day that we are about to, give the summative version of all of these seminars. I want to take this time to humbly thank each and every single presenter that came on at 7 o'clock, except for Wednesday. We started at 6:30. I'd like to thank you in a very, from the deepest part of my heart, I'd like to thank you for the knowledge that you have given us this evening. Without wasting time, I am going to talk about a seminar that I've entitled Youth and Decision Making. I want to just clear that out so it's not a sermon, okay? This evening, we are looking at youth and indecision. And without wasting time, I just want to start on what I call the basis for indecision. When you speak of a young person, ordinarily you're talking of a person that's under the age of 35. But the truth is, there are so many challenges that are faced by people under the age of 35. In fact, if we were to look at the senior youth bracket, that would be, of course, from 22 right up to 35. You are here dealing with people who have taken huge financial decisions. You are dealing with people that have taken out a mortgage. They've taken out a loan with a bank, a car loan, a student loan. They are effectively at a point in their lives where critical decisions have been taken. They do not have time to waste. This generation between 25, or perhaps maybe let's stretch it earlier and say from 21 to 35, is a generation that is so encumbered by stress and clinical depression. And of course, the bulk of that emanates from a lot of the social pressures that sort of age bracket comes with. You are dealing here with people who perhaps, may have graduated from XYZ university, but currently as we are speaking, they do not have permanent employment. It's important to understand the effects that unemployment has on someone between the ages of 21 and 35. Unemployment is very debilitating. If you're finding a 32-year-old, a 27-year-old that is not employed, ordinarily that person is bound at some point in their life or journey to sink into clinical depression. And when clinical depression comes, the last thing that you want to do as a senior youth leader is to be judgmental. The last thing that you want to do as a senior youth leader is to be careless and not care at all. When we are dealing with young people, and perhaps for those of who might be of my generation, when we are dealing with ourselves, it's very important that we, point number one, have empathy. For in the absence of empathy, we cannot work together. We cannot deal with one another. So empathy, put simply, is you put it, I should have done. It is not you telling me how much of a failure I am, but empathy is you humbling yourself low enough to be in my shoes and to be able to interpret life through my own personal lenses. Between 21 and 35, we have got a youth bracket that is not only depressed, but a very large bulk of it is, of course, under the pressure of unemployment. The effects of unemployment have socio-economic effects. We all know that. But the point I want to mention is the mental aspect that comes with unemployment if you're dealing with someone between 21 and 35. This is the generation that we're leading in the church. This is the generation that we are a part of. The question that we are now posing is, for someone who's 33 years old, for someone who's 34, for someone who's 35, for someone who's 29, what is the incentive of that person, one, either coming to church and taking part in the senior youth leader curriculum? What is the incentive? And I'm here challenging those about to be invested that when we are leading in our leadership, it's very important that we contextualize the modules that we have, but not just contextualize these models, but understand that we are dealing here not with robots. We are dealing with human beings that have got emotions. We are dealing with human beings that have been battered by life. Some of them are living literally on the margins. Some of them are living on the periphery, okay? And this is the generation, the generational pain, if I can call it, that comes with leading people between the ages of 21 and 35. When we talk about youth and decision making, the second thing perhaps that I want to mention that's quite important is the fact that there are no decisions where there are no options. And I'm going to repeat that again because it's very important and critical, right? There are no decisions where there are no options. Decisions are taken because there are options from which you can then choose X or Y or what have you. If you are dealing with a young person who is struggling in the valley of indecision, the reality could be one or two options. Option number one, the person may not be aware of alternatives that are in front of them. Option number two, the individual in question may be aware of the alternatives that are there, but there are extenuating circumstances that are the reason that person cannot take that particular choice. And I'm going to give a good example, okay? You have got a young person who has taken out a mortgage. I started out earlier with this, and I'm just going to emphatically mention it because it's quite important. You've got a 34-year-old a man that has just taken out a mortgage. Effectively, that person is dependent on the salary that they get from their employer to be able to pay up their mortgage, to be able to take care of their family, upkeep, and so forth and so forth. Now, the question that I have for the senior youth leaders that are listening to me right now as we open the Sabbath in this seminar is, what do you then do the moment that person comes and says, look, I have got a challenge, I'm unable to come to church because I'm being forced to work on Sabbath. If I don't work on Sabbath, my hours are then affected. If I have got hours that I've affected, ordinarily it means it shows up in my paycheck. And if I come short, I'm unable to meet my monthly financial obligations. Most of the time, and I perhaps say this with a smile, is that many of us are bound to take the biblical route, okay? And we are bound to remind that person of the importance of the Sabbath, which is good, okay, which is all good. And I want to twist, and just flip the coin and just show you guys of another alternative. And the other alternative is that when this said individual looks for employment, it is very important from the onset to be able to tell your employer that there are certain things that are just not negotiable, okay? You come as a package of which your spirituality is one of them. You not working on a Sabbath is not something that you're willing to negotiate with your prospective employer. Already what you've just done is position yourself as a person of value and worth by effectively making sure that the prospective employer is aware that there are certain boundaries that you have. And those boundaries were made evident from the very beginning, okay? You cannot do this if you are someone who's ashamed of your faith. Let's give another example. If you are a young person who had a job, but unfortunately due to COVID or COVID-19 regulations, you've just been given a retrenchment card, you've been retrenched, and you are unable to survive or take care of yourself or even of your family or even pay your mortgage. There is a great temptation for you to be involved in acts that you might just know spiritually are not congruent with what you believe in as someone who's a born-again Christian and Adventist waiting for the second coming of Jesus Christ. The needs that you have are tangible. The needs are actually practical. The needs are not philosophical. So you cannot philosophize hunger. You cannot philosophize poverty, okay? There are certain things that you need. But the reality is you've just been retrenched. The immediate temptation is for you to be able to just deaden your conscience and do that which and you could just go to town with the sort of the options that are available to you there, to be able to do whatever will be able to meet your financial needs. Is that wise? No, it is not, because you're selling yourself short. Many decisions that we take as young people are not easy. And this is a conversation that we never have most of the time. Decisions that we take are never easy. And perhaps the truth is, after we've taken those decisions, many of us, once those consequences begin to just become glaringly evident, many of us as young people then begin to just feel isolated. Many of us begin to feel judged because we are at the receiving end of people's actions or their thoughts, who perhaps might not know the circumstances that we are going through. Okay, you have got a young person between the ages of 21 and 35 who desperately wants to leave the usage of extensive, alcohol usage and narcotics. And that person perhaps on a building block structure, used to perhaps take in 7 bottles of XYZ, and they now take in 2. And you happen to meet that person at the point that they take 2. And you then begin to take a judgmental stance and say that, oh, well, you took 2 bottles of alcohol, unaware of the fact that the 2 bottles of alcohol are actually some level of discipline from where this person was originally. Okay, so the truth is, we grow in discipline, we grow in our ability to be strong, and once we are strong, we are able to reach a point in our lives where we are able to be better than what we were in the past. Indecision is a crisis, especially between the ages of 21 and 35. When we are indecisive, the truth is, society takes decisions for us. If you're a young lady and you're indecisive about which path your life is to follow, the harsh truth of the matter is the fact that if you are indecisive about what you stand for and who you are, society will then ordinarily give you an identity. So that is to say that society will impose an identity on you. And that is why it is critical. I argue this for the senior youth leaders that are listening to me right now. It's critical that between the ages of 21 and 35, that bracket, build your base of discipline, build your ability to be able to take decisions and not feel emotionally attached to anyone who might not agree with the decision that you take. This translates into the type of relationships that you enter into. This permeates the sort of financial decisions that you take with your hard-earned money. It effectively has a bearing on the decisions that you take in terms of who you want to have or begin a family with. All of that is impossible if you languish in the valley of indecision. So indecision is a time waster. You're a young person between 21 and 35, and you are running away from the ability to take those hard decisions. Who are you in your life? And don't talk to me about the Instagram or social media perspective of who you think you are. I'm not talking here of a filtered understanding of who you are. I'm asking you right now as a senior youth leader, who are you? Outside of the filters, what do you stand for? What are your ethics? What is your virtue? Okay, your faith, how practical is it in terms of helping you to be able to take critical life decisions that have an impact not just on you, but also on others? If you are indecisive about these things, you begin to be so much of a sponge, if I could use that word, in as much as it's a harsh illustration. You become a sponge and you basically suck in every sort of energy that society gives you. Now, you've got no guarantee that the energy that society gives you will be pure. You have got no guarantee that the energy that society will give you will be sober. And so at some point in the life of a person, a young person that is between the ages of 21 and 35, it is incumbent that you are resolute about who you are and what you stand for. Decisions that you take need not be filtered through a committee of friends in order for them to agree with them. If you took decisions on the basis of who will agree with the decision that you have just taken, you basically are finding yourself locked in this perpetual prison of people's opinions, and what they think about you is what you are going to fulfill. And this is a challenge, particularly for someone that wants to build a relationship with God or with Jesus Christ and to deepen your service to the church, because you are so used to being in a space where decisions must be validated by friendships, where decisions must be validated by relationships, and decisions must be validated by social media, that you have actually, in the actual sense of the or definition of the matter, forgotten who you are and what you stand for. And so when young people are indecisive, society begins to take choices for them. You do not owe anyone an explanation as to why you choose to maintain the level of faith that you have specific to the teachings of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. There is absolutely no one that you owe that explanation to. You should not even feel bad about taking a firm decision of being baptized as a young person into this faith. The moment you are insecure about decisions that you take, I'm going to repeat this again because it's very important, that permeates entirely into who you are. And that is not the type of space that you want to end up in. So when we talk of indecision, we are talking of you being aware of the alternatives that are there. Right now, allow me to give this brief example, if I could. Right now, there is a young person that just finished matric. And of course, ordinarily, they're looking at being absorbed into a higher institution of learning so that they may further their studies, be it medicine or whatever, engineering, law, or whatever it is that they may want to do. The financial reality, however, is the fact that there may be no funds for that young person to be able to achieve what they want to achieve, okay? Open to that respective young person are a set of decisions. Decision number one is to give up and to languish at home. As you languish at home, the truth is depression is bound to sink in. Choice number two, and perhaps you might not like this, but I'm going to state it because it's quite important. You might have to move away from what you originally wanted to do, that is to learn, and enter a phase of skills development. And as you enter a phase of skills development, while it might not be what you wanted to do originally, it does give you the capacity to be financially independent. And the moment you're financially independent, only then are you able to raise up sufficient capital necessary for you to be able to finally study what you want to do. I'm saying, guys, when it comes to us as young people, certain decisions that we take might not be originally what we wanted as far as careers are concerned, as far as where we live, the neighborhood that we live in, the type of schools that we take our children to, or even preschool centers that we take our children to. But as a senior youth leader, decisions ought to be taken with an understanding that the decisions are not taken in a vacuum. The decisions are not taken in a silo. That is to say, every single decision that you take as a young person has a direct impact on your immediate surroundings. Direct impact. What you decide at 34 has a critical impact on the lives of those who will be around you at 44 and at 54. And that is to say that when decisions are taken and you're between the ages of 21 and 35, do not be under pressure to take decisions that might lead you to choose that which you know very, very well is not conducive, one, for your mental health, your relationship with God, or your ideals and goals in life. When you are taking a decision, take it firmly, consultatively, of course, on the basis of where you see yourself tomorrow, which leads me to the aspect of vision. So many of us between the ages of 21 and 35 are living through life, and we absolutely have no sort of vision, none whatsoever. And in the absence of vision, the good book tells us that people perish, okay? When you are unable to forecast where you will be, and this is quite important, I just want to spend some time on this, it's quite critical, right? That when I say forecast, I'm not saying give an accurate prophecy of where you'll be 5 years from now. You're not a prophet, okay? You don't know the future from the past and the present. But when you are able to take decisions as a young person, with some level of understanding of the impact that that decision will have on your future, you are careful, you are conservative, you become consultative, because you understand that the consequences of the decision that you've just taken, be it financial, be it medical, be it marital, be it relational, those consequences have a direct impact years from now, well after the time that you took that decision in. Indecision is when we as young people fail to face the reality of life. And listen to me quite carefully, senior youth leaders. The reality of life is that you will not always get what you want. And that's the truth. And I need to prepare you for this. You will not always get what you want. And that's not how life operates. You always get what you want. But when life rejects that which you originally wanted, sit down and map a plan B. Do not allow rejection to put and lock you in a mental space where you begin to question the importance or worth of your own existence, okay? And this is where depression comes in, that issue of depression, this is where it comes in. When we take decisions as young people, we are able to reach a point in our lives where we understand that we might not be perfect in the moment, There are financial decisions that you could have taken, loans that you could have taken out in your early 20s that have a direct impact in terms of the standard of living that you have right now in your early 30s as a young person. There is absolutely nothing wrong in you taking stock. And by taking stock, I'm saying realize the wrong that you may have done either in past decisions that were taken, and to be able to restoratively look at those decisions in a different light. And by looking at them in a different light, it might mean, and this is the painful part, you separating from spaces that do not grow you mentally nor spiritually. It might mean detaching from certain friendships, spaces, or relationships that do not develop your spirituality or even your closeness to God. It might mean perhaps even going for workshops that might be able to assist you in terms of understanding the nature of decisions and the impact that decisions have, not just on your immediate person, but also on those that you love and those who love you. Indecision as young people affects us because when we are indecisive, we begin to live a life that is totally confused. When we are indecisive, we begin to live a life that has got no sense of direction. When we are indecisive, we begin to languish in what I call existential nothingness. You wake up in the morning, decisions are taken on your behalf, you're constantly depressed, and you do not know what to do with yourself. We are here saying to the senior youth leaders that are about to be invested in the senior youth leadership program, your job is to be a mentor. A mentor does not fashion mentees in their likeness or their image. You're not God, okay? When you are leading ambassadors, when you are leading young people, it's important to understand that you are not leading a set of, robotic objects that are unable to take decisions for themselves. Enter their space with an accurate understanding that you're speaking to an adult. Don't undermine them. Understand where they come from. When certain decisions have been taken by them that are not wise, humbly show them why those decisions may not at that particular moment be the best decision or the best direction to take. As a senior youth leader, you are not there to be a deputy Christ or a deputy Jesus, but you are there to be a mentor to young people. You mentor them spiritually, okay? Above and beyond being a mentor spiritually, you are also there to be a pillar of assistance. Professionals, for example, these are people that may be within the corporate sector who are working, are blessed in more ways than one. And I know for a fact that perhaps there could be someone right now who's a professional, who's listening to this seminar and is hearing this teaching. And I'm saying that if you have been blessed and you are in a professional space, it's very important that you find mentees, find people that you can pass down knowledge to, okay? You have got a plethora, a huge number of young people that are sitting at home languishing with nothing to do with their lives. At the end of the month, and I know some of you might go like, but listen to where I'm going with this. At the end of the month, it's important that you set aside some time. It's not always money that people need, okay? We constantly assume that young people are in need of money, and sometimes they're just in need of good counsel. Set up some time at the end of the month to be able to pick up a mentee, mentor them in the ways of life, mentor them in terms of decision-making, mentor them in terms of allowing them to progress or to help them build capacity for whatever what's this discipline that they want to find themselves in eventually. So we are here saying we have spoken about the importance of mental health throughout the week. Not only that, but we also spoke about the impact of mentorship. And not only that, we also spoke about the scourge of entrepreneurship. And we are here saying, beloved, if you're listening very carefully to this, as a young person who's living in South Africa right now during very turbulent times, think out of the box. In fact, I'd even take it a step further and say, throw the box away, kick it, throw it out the window, okay? Take decisions that are able to position you in a space that strengthens who you are spiritually and Someone might ask, why am I beginning with the spiritual aspect first? Because the spiritual aspect is your base. I don't care how much you earn at the end of the month. Spiritually, if you're not in the right place, it becomes difficult to coordinate your life or your thoughts. There's a mess in everything that you do because the spirit is the base where decisions are taken. I leave you with a few nuggets. Perhaps let me give you 4. The first nugget: indecision is not a sign of weakness. When you are unable to take decisions about your life, it is not a sign that you are weak. Indecision is simply an opportunity for you to sit back and reflect on what is possible and to prayerfully act on what is wiser, not just what you want. I wish I could spend time on that. It's very important. Do not take decisions on the basis of desire. Do not take decisions based on your intestines or your stomach. Do not take decisions based on comfort, okay? All of those things are transient. All of those things are temporary. They're temporal. They don't last forever. Take decisions that are able to position you in a space where spiritually you maintain your base. This will influence the type of jobs that you're looking into having. This will influence the type of relationships that you have with people. This will further influence the type of friendships that you keep with other people. That's nugget number 1. Nugget number 2, when you have taken a decision, understand that decisions don't take place in a vacuum. Decisions have consequences, okay? Be humble. Be humble. When consequences come of you choosing a job that has resulted in more stress than happiness, understand that what you're feeling is effectively the consequences of a decision that you took. And it is well within your power and capacity to be able to rescind that decision and take a better one that obviously prioritizes your mental health. Okay, that's quite an important one. And I hope that you've written it down. Nugget number 3, when you've taken a decision, do not be selfish. And that is to say, decisions have an impact in our immediate environment, okay? When I take a decision on X or Y, that decision permeates and it has an influence on those that I love and those who love me. I initially mentioned this. In closing, nugget number 4, decisions are difficult to take, particularly where you have got an entire set of alternatives. But the truth is, there's only one alternative that's perfect for you. Whatever you choose, don't choose based on eyesight, okay? Don't choose based on desire. And I'm not just speaking about relationships here, I'm speaking about financial decisions. You could literally expand this to include or to be inclusive of a host of other things, okay? When taking decisions, don't be led by desire. Don't be led by your eyes. Don't be led by your hands, okay? But be led by something that is far greater than that, and that is your purpose. To this end, may God give you strength, may God guide you, may God deliver you. As we take decisions as young people, let us be more responsible. God bless you guys, and happy Sabbath.